it showed a shot of him with his shirt off, and he had a belly button, which the Cleons don't have. And Demerzel said something like, would that make you feel whole?
And that, I feel like, has been the central theme of Day and Empire from the beginning, back when he did the trip on Luminism and did the spiral.
I think he has a weird combination of like a superiority and an inferiority complex.
Right.
Like you said with like Luminism, he also has this yearning to be more than he is. Like he is incomplete. Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Mark and I are talking about the hit science fiction TV show Foundation, Season 3, Episode 7, Foundation's End. So spoilers are ahead. And if you're enjoying our content, then a like would be appreciated. If you don't want to miss a single one of our breakdowns, since Only Murders in the Building Season 5 is next, then just be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. And with that, what do you think about what we've got going on in Trantor?
Well, let's maybe jump to Mycogen first, because we love Day. Day is great. One thing I really liked about this episode is in the season overall, we've seen Day that has been kind of like portrayed as this like lazy, doing these spores, just getting high, just like chasing a high. And that was kind of like what his and Song's relationship felt like at the palace. And it kind of paints the, like when Dusk comes to confront Day, he kind of treats Song like she's from Mycogen, like she's a lesser, like just like a druggie, whatever, not cool. But then when we get to Mycogen and they talk about these other mushrooms and spores that they're doing, and they treat it more as like ceremony versus a, just to get high. And I think that is a very cool, like as someone who has done psychedelic mushrooms before, I think it is a very cool interpretation to show that doing stuff like magic mushrooms is not just like you're just trying to chase a high or just, get silly and stupid with it, but it's something that it's like it can help you see truths and like look inward and focus on yourself and what you need to fix. And I really liked this portrayal of what Mycogen is based on how they use these mushrooms.
Yeah, I haven't personally used, but I do know that, a number of different cultures have at different points used drugs for more than just chasing highs, just for like having a good time, that they have sometimes been used as part of rituals to access parts of their brain or the universe that they don't feel that they can access in order to discover truths, things along those lines. So I do think that this is definitely an interesting kind of interpretation of that. And I do think that it was a very artful portrayal of that, because I do think that that can be tough to portray and sometimes can verge on the goofy side of things, because like you're having visions of things that aren't there. And so it can easily slip into, I feel like horror is one of the things that you'll oftentimes see of like things popping up that out of somewhere you wouldn't expect, that large, whatever. And I felt like this was a very kind of beautiful and artful portrayal of a trip.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Like that, I think that with a lot of people that they show consuming it, it shows them like become silly or stupid or unaware or just kind of like goofy. And I feel like this really did a great job showing Day kind of like navigating his own psyche and his own consciousness and figuring out what it means to be Day and his relationship with Demerzel and where he's at now and his responsibility. And I think that showing that he like went on a real journey, like we see him, in the palace, looking at the murals and understanding the murals. And I think that it was very tastefully done to show that, psychedelics aren't necessarily something that's just going to make you silly and stupid.
Yeah. It was an interesting trip, and it was wild when he came out of it. The Sunmaster 18 has been called in there, and like, what's going to come of that?
Man, I don't know. Whoever the actor is playing Sunmaster 18, he is cool. Like, oh yeah, he just has
great
like
voice,
a great voice, just like a swagger to him.
Yeah, I loved when it's not showing his face, but his voice had so much gravitas to it.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I loved his staff that has a robot head on it, just to show that like these are the people that believe in the robots. And I loved seeing when Song confronts him and he's like, Demerzel's ruling everything and whatever. And Song says that it's Day's fault that she's locked away and that she's a prisoner because of basically Empire. But it's like not Day's fault because Day's also the prisoner to her, which is just like, I just thought that, seeing the pain of Song, feeling how this robot is imprisoned, even though she is imprisoned, but from Cleon the First, and just...
Also, the way that the Cleons are imprisoned. Like, one of the things that came up in that trip was it showed a shot of him with his shirt off, and he had a belly button, which the Cleons don't have. And Demerzel said something like, would that make you feel whole?
Right, because Day says, I wasn't born, I was made. And then she was like, then you see the belly button and she's like, is that what you need to make you feel whole? Like if you weren't just created and you were actually born. And that I feel like has been the central theme of Day and Empire from the beginning, back when he did the trip on Luminism and did the spiral. Like, of course, like he is dealing with this, the genetic dynasty has been dealing with this. Like, are they humans? Do they have souls because they're made? Or can you only get those from being born? I love it.
I think he has a weird combination of like a superiority and an inferiority complex.
Right.
Because as Empire, he sits on top of the galaxy, and can do whatever. I mean, at this point, the reach is kind of getting smaller, but still, he still has a very powerful seat and has been able to, execute who he wants, like do whatever he wants, take whatever he wants. So he has that kind of like superiority and that he's like the genetic top. But then at the same time, like you said, with like Luminism, he also has this yearning to be more than he is. Like he is incomplete and he wants to get away from, the situation that he was created in.
Yeah, and I think with it's crazy with the whole thing with Demerzel, it's like what is kind of like putting him in this mental state where he asked her at a young age, he said, do you love me? Or like, would you choose freedom over me? And she's like, I would never make that choice. And like he comes to the realization, it's like, you would choose freedom. So it's like, he's this like most powerful thing. And there's this like mother figure that loves him and adores him, but he realizes that's like fake love. And that if she had the chance for freedom, she'd be gone. So like this also creates this like, right? Like I'm superior because I have this person taking care of me, but like I'm inferior as well because if she had the opportunity to leave, she'd be gone.
Right.
And God, this version of Day is just such a complex version. And it's so refreshing for this character that we've seen be this, like basically the bad guy the entire series. And now it's like the version of him I'm rooting for.
And it's wild kind of seeing when we first saw him, he seemed very one note, like it was just escapism and that he was, trying to erase all of his worries through his drug use. But then as time went on, you saw that like he was aware of the situation, like he was watching the Clavigers and he knew that they were cheating and he was letting them do that. Like he was gathering information. So he wasn't just like a passive prisoner that was trying to like erase his woes. He was actually thinking and scheming, and then you see the complexities grow even further from that in like this episode. And so it's cool seeing that being teased out slowly and realizing that there could be more complexity to a character that seemed so simple.
Yeah.
I do wonder, do you think that the staff that Sunmaster 18 has, do you think that is a partially working robot head? But it's like their last remnant, because he did say that it would scream his fate.
Oh.
Right? I think it definitely said scream. He said scream, and I think it was like his fate, you know, like it was basically going to like pass judgment. It was like what I got from it.
Yeah, so I didn't think of the staff as actually being alive. You know, I did theorize that they might have some robots or what somewhere.
It sounded less likely this episode.
Yeah, so like now I don't think they have any. That could be one.
With the exception, I think this staff might be like the last one.
Yeah.
And because they don't have the tools to repair it, that's why it's like just down to a skull. Like that's probably been over the course of like 300 years that, you know, it might have been like a full head.
Yeah. Do you think that they will fix it with the tool he brought?
I don't know if that one tool is not. I think they'll probably try.
Right.
These are just wild speculations. Could be way wrong, but
I did find it interesting that the view we got of what Demerzel would be if she could leave. Like, what would she do if she could leave?
Yeah.
And I think that her, you know, she goes into all the different things that she's been. She's been this, she's been that, she's been whatever. And Builder was one of them. And so when they talk about if she was free, she would want to build more robots. Like, that is a very, for robots and mycogen believers, that is a very hopeful outcome for her. You know, and I know she believes that she can't get out of it, but it's still...
It's also a very human trait to want to, like, we are social animals. And so... we want to be with more of us, you know, and that doesn't mean that, like, obviously there are people that are introverts that very much enjoy their me time and enjoy like recharging their battery. But for the most part, like even introverts need people in their lives. And so to me, this is kind of like further proof of how human Demerzel is, that she wants to be, or at least like how sentient, you know, that she wants to be with more of her kind. That kind of like can really stimulate her and create this good environment, you know, with her and this like positive life to live.
Yeah. And I mean, there's like categories that we apply to certain things to measure if they are what we call alive. And one of those things is reproduction. And so the fact that she wants to reproduce, that gives her this like basically like qualifier that she is alive and not just working parts.
Right. So moving on to maybe the top of Trantor.
Top of Trantor with Dusk. And I'm curious.
A fraying Dusk.
Yeah. So when he is getting all of this information blasted at him and he's on the throne and he sees two camels, whatever, and he's like, some animals are loose. Do you think that is part of his like degeneration?
1,000%.
Like, yeah, I thought so too. I'm like,
yeah,
he's 3 days away.
Yeah, it had like the there were some sound effects, you know, that were like jarring sounds, you know, made it seem like a cacophony, and not just like that he's being overwhelmed with people, because I think that as Empire, he's dealt with stuff before. He's dealt with, you know, terrible situation and 100 people coming at him, asking questions all at once, and he has to make that choice. So I don't think it was like he was clamming up from that. It also had the like Dutch angles when like the camera's at a slight, you know, it is askew, that makes you kind of feel uncomfortable. And so to me, that was more than just like claustrophobic. He couldn't handle it. It was like he is mentally fraying. He's 3 days away. This is why they've moved the date of ascension forward, is to prevent Empire from being seen in this vulnerable state, because then that can call into question the like superiority of Empire. If it turns out that they could just be like fallible and go crazy. So that was definitely my read on it.
That was my read, because that's like what we've been like leading up to with Dusk, or headed that way. But I do also like the ambiguity of it, because, you know, yes, sure, he's had tons of people coming to him all at once, But I feel like he did that as Day, when he's in his prime. And he's always had, as Day, he would have a Dusk to help him. He would have a Dawn to help him. And both Day and Dawn are gone. The Armada was destroyed, not by your choosing. And so, like, being Dusk and you're like 3 days to Ascension and all of this is landing at your feet all at once. Your brothers are gone. One is probably dead. One has fled. One is, you lost your whole ship in an embarrassment of, blockade. Yeah. And now they're about to go hit Terminus, where they're going to get whisper ships and they can come and just knock on your front door. Like, it did seem like it could have just been so overwhelming of things happening that was creating that. But also because we know that now their brains aren't as good or as, it don't last as long, that it could just be he's going crazy. And I thought it was a great ambiguous little scene.
And I think that we've generally seen the transition from like Dawn to Dusks as getting more reliant on the stick and further away from the carrot. Mm-hmm. Because like the portrayals of Dawn that we've seen have generally been, more on like the empathetic side. And more of the portrayals of the Dusks have been the ones that are like, we have to take swift action and, show our strength so that they're afraid of us. So I think he could potentially use the planet destroyer a little too hastily to, and I think possibly with like very negative consequences, where it's like he thinks he can just stamp out the problem, but somehow in doing so, he makes things worse. Whether or not he like creates a full scale division between Foundation and Empire. And so now it's like 3 parties warring instead of just like, the mule against everybody.
Yeah, I think we got teased the big planet destroyer. It feels like that's going to be a big part of the climax. Like that's the Chekhov's gun, right? We saw the gun. It's on the table. We know the gun's going to be used. So yeah, we're going to see this destroying of planets somewhere. And I'm feeling like I can't imagine him destroying Trantor unless, there's 2 ways I could see this happening. Okay. One, he shoots it at New Terminus and just says we're just going to try to take him out. Yeah. The vault's there. I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah. But he could, because I don't know if it's on Trantor, that thing, or if it's like on a space station. It's kind of vague where it's at. Right. We know that the mule is going to go to Trantor. He might, in a final act, use it on Trantor to save the galaxy, basically.
I don't put it past him, and I don't put it past it being kind of like a rash decision, both in terms of like Dusk being quick to using the stick and also this Dusk fraying. And so not necessarily having the mental acuity to like think things out. Right. I did think, an interesting thing about the end of this episode was that it kind of reminded me a little bit of like the last Lord of the Rings movies, where there's like 5 or 6 endings, and it like keeps doing something that like feels like it could be like definitive end, and then there's like another one after that. Now obviously this didn't have like the very dramatic like fade to blacks, fade to whites, whatever, but literally the last 5 scenes of this episode all felt like they could have been a banger of an ending,
like a little watch out.
Seriously, because like so I think the first one was like Dusk stepping on Capillus, which felt like it was really showing that like he's losing it. And then there's like Sunmaster 18, that is about to cast judgment on Day. And it's like, holy crap, that one could definitely be the end. And then it's like Inbird drowning himself.
Oh, Inbird drowning himself?
Which is like, holy crap, that's a crazy moment.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's the past where we learn that like, that scene we saw is like the genesis of the mule. Right. And it's like, holy crap. And then it's the mule and Harry.
I know. You're right. There were a bunch of like tons of notes they could have ended on, but
they could have every single one of those could have been like a banger of an ending, and that's where I thought it was going. And then there was like another scene. It's like, oh, there's more, but wait.
And then that ending with the mule and Harry, like, I don't have a lot of speculation on that, but like, we have kind of been feeling that Harry's been a little compromised, and I don't know if the mule has anything to do with this, but it did seem weird where like the mule was like, I know you can hear me. And then Harry comes out, and it didn't seem like Harry was like, hey, like, what's going on? It seemed like he was almost greeting an old friend. And so I don't know.
And like the mule called him Harriton, which I didn't know if that was like him poking fun of him by like giving him a name that he doesn't have, or showing that like the mule has more knowledge of Harry than we do.
I think that's it. I think he knows Harry's full name. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, they seem a little bit closer than before. And I don't know what it means. I don't know what we're going to find out. We still have 3 episodes, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I've already felt like this season, Harry has felt sketchy.
Okay.
And now we're seeing this with the mule. It makes me feel like he's even more sketchy. And I don't know why. And I don't know how.
And it turns out that the mule comes from a Foundation planet.
Right.
So it is very possible that, that the mule maybe started out in the system and maybe went to the vault and like worked for Foundation, worked for Harry, and then eventually got out or something like that. So like he might know.
He might.
It was the portrayal of this planet. I've already forgotten the name of it.
Rossum.
Rossum. They didn't pronounce it. So Rossem. I thought it was crazy that as far advanced as Foundation is, that this is the way that they are growing crop in a way that is barely sustainable for the people that are growing it. And I know that, you could argue that that's always been the story of farmers. Mm-hmm. Is that it's a very tough thing because like obviously it changes from year to year. You can have, a disease can come through and like wipe out your crop, and that's where you get your entire money for the year. So I get it's always been a tough thing, but I guess there was like part of me that thought that this far into the future, they would have this stuff figured out and not be so draconian to like implement measures of like one child.
Yeah, well, and that's, see, I do believe that that's not necessarily like a failure of the society at large of like, oh, we just don't have ways to like think this. I think that this comes from a symptom of the Embers being too greedy, and that they want
all the money from the crop.
Correct. They could take care of these people.
Yeah.
Like they would have like, because if you look at the whole planet and how big it is, and it's not just, it's like every farmer on there is desolate, right? It's not like any of those people are successful. And yet you see these beautiful ships that they fly in on, these machines that they use to harvest the crops. And yet they can't afford one extra person. Like they're making these families have one. To me, it feels just like a system of control. Like, we don't want you, like, if you reproduce a bunch, then you can create an army to stand up to us or secede from us like the traders are doing. But if we keep you poor, one child, we can control you as best we can. And that's like what created that tense scene at the end.
I think you might be right, because I think that I could see it being more like indentured servitude. Because, if the farmers own the land, they could choose how much of the crop they sell. They could try and live off of as much of it as they need. But instead, Foundation was telling them, what their allotment was.
Right.
And so this is probably Foundation's land that they have basically tied people to, where they can't. They seem poor enough that they couldn't move to a different life if they wanted to find a different future. I think they probably are tied to continuing this work.
Yeah. And, well, I love this portrayal of Foundation because the whole show we've been thinking Foundation is this good guy, right? And this shows that they have actually become the bad guys. And that's like, we're not as happy for the first Foundation to be successful. And what makes it even better is when the mule takes over, I feel like it's pretty clear who he's manipulating and who he's controlling his mind. But then we see Ember and the Warden instantly surrender. And it's again ambiguous of whether or not he's controlling him to surrender, or if Foundation has just lacked such a spine that he's willingly giving himself up to him and being like, look, we can't beat this. Our ships are shooting on each other. So we're just going to surrender now. Like, because it seemed like that one guy, you would think that if he's controlling all these people around him, one guy standing up to him, he would have controlled him too and been like, yeah, great. So it does feel like they chose this without being mind controlled to do it.
I think Ember might have chosen the meetup without being mind controlled, but I think by the end it's very clear that he was.
Sure. Well, I think that at the end, so this is how I took it.
Yeah.
Ember was like, I'm going to sell out my own people so that I can be safe and have my position of power and stay here. And so that's why he decides to help the mule. He offers him Pritcher to be like, look, I've got Pritcher for you. I know you'd be very interested in meeting him. And then he did all these things for the mule. And then the mule is so twisted that he decided to kill him anyway and had him drown himself. So like Ember was trying to save himself, but then I feel like still ended up dying because he's a spineless coward.
Interesting thing about like seeing the background of the mule story was that it gave us information about how the mule controls people. And that to me was wild. So like, obviously it seemed like his parents very much loved their younger child more than him. Which, I mean, obviously like the younger ones are the ones that require us. Mm-hmm. You know, like they literally can't live without us. And so it's much easier to be attached to like a small child than like a grown one. Like it's hard to not feel that. Like I think our we're actually like wired to see that like body type. That's why like people love pandas.
And why they love Funko Pops.
Because they have those kind of like baby-like things that like makes you want to like hug them and take care of them, you know?
Yeah.
But I thought it was wild that like he obviously isn't being shown love. And then his powers emerge from washing over people a feeling of love that they've never felt before. So like Randu and Ember both said things about love and like how much love there was. And so it's interesting that like he's able to use this very strong primary emotion. Like it even makes it seem like they're totally cool with this. You know, I think like some other versions of mind control that we've seen in the past, like in other shows, you see them like fighting it. You even saw it with, you know, in season 2 when like Tellum was trying to take over Gale's body, that she was like, she was trying to fight this like thing of being taken over.
Right.
You know, we've seen it in like Get Out, you know, where it's like he knows that he is trapped and like trying to shout through, you know, to the outside world and isn't able to do it. And this one, at least based off the words they were saying, it's possible that it's like they feel different inside, but like they seemed truly happy with what they were doing and that they were like choosing to be on his side.
Yeah. Well, and also the mule has said multiple times when he's been killing people, he said, I'm going to make you love it. I'm going to make you enjoy it. Like when he was Torin, when he was like, I'm gonna make you love killing yourself. And like same with the first guy that was the leader of Calgon. It's like, I'm really gonna make you want to enjoy this. And when he told Ember, he's like, and then when he said about his parents, is like, they love being there. And so it's like he's taking this lack of love and he's filling these people with love as they off their lives or whatever.
Yeah. And it was such a sad past, including the fact that like watching it through a second time, I picked up a few things that I didn't get from the first time. Like the fact that, you know, they keep talking about the Bartons, the neighbors. And the Bartons, like the first time through, it sounded like the Bartons were good people, and they would like happily, you know, take the kid in order to like save its life. But it actually sounded like they were jealous people who wanted the kid, not like would happily help.
Right.
But like they desired the baby, so they probably couldn't make one themselves. Because like it sounded to me like they would happily take the kid, but not give it back if they did.
Right.
So it wouldn't just be like, oh, we're going to hold it to like pretend.
Yeah.
Like we're going to take it and keep it. And like it's the baby, not the other one.
Right. And that they wouldn't be able to feed it properly. So like they're kind of seeming like if they have the same circumstances as both of these people, and you know they have their same allotment from Foundation, and these people for some reason wouldn't be able to take care of the baby, seems like they're probably like taking their money and just like either gambling it or, you know, spending it on spores or something.
Right. So it was just kind of like a sad portrayal and interesting seeing where the mule's powers come from.
Let me ask you this. Did you know the very first time we were on that planet that was the mule?
No.
Oh, I did. I knew right away. Because I felt like the way that the kid that they got cast for him, just like with the sweeping hair, I just was like, that's the mule. I bet you we are seeing the origin story of the mule. Just because also we didn't know these people. Usually, like, we kind of have a frame of reference of somebody we know. And it said some time ago, I was like, that's the mule.
Yeah.
That's got to be the mule.
Yeah. I have ADHD and am quickly distracted with dangling keys.
Right.
And so when it moves, so one, I unrelated to that,
come on, get
it. I've been distracted. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Where do we go?
So like unrelated to that, that's not the reason I didn't catch on to the fact that it was a mule, but it like the story quickly moved on to a bunch of other things. And so I completely forgot about that because I was like early on, it was like a short chunk, and then we weren't really coming back to it. And so it wasn't until when we came back to it and I'd seen some of what the mule had done, as soon as it came back to it, I was like, oh, I remember that we were watching this scene earlier and it obviously has a point. Then I was like, oh, I bet it's the mule. But it wasn't until the second time around.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I mean, that's fine enough. As long as you found out before he did his mule powers, that's all that matters. So do you think that Randu, because, you know, he was telling Torin, Randu was like, he's not controlling me, he can't control me, yada, yada, yada. It's only what we really want. It, like, does that? Do you think Randu was really being controlled or not?
I did, because I felt like he said something about love.
Well, he did say something about love, but that wasn't what made me think that he was being controlled. It was more of Torin, because when Torin says, my uncle doesn't go the easy route kind of thing.
Yes.
And so that was like making me believe that Randu was in fact being controlled and not of free thought, even though their missions might have been aligned. He could secede from Terminus. But I do think that overall he was being controlled.
1000%. Like based off of like Torin's comment, I think Randu said something about like doing this quietly or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Torin's like, you know, you would never do something quietly.
Right.
And so 100% like I felt the same way, where it's like, yes, Randu might side with the mule because like he's against Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And if Mule is against Foundation, then he might side with him. But I feel like Randu would still do things his way.
Yeah.
Even if he was working with Mule. And this didn't feel like Randu's way.
Yeah. And also, there's a part of Torin. Also, the actor for Torin. I love Torin and Beta. They're probably my standout favorites of the season. But Torin, or Randu is telling Torin, like, come on, like, basically, he's giving him the Darth Vader speech. Join me and we can rule the galaxy as, you know, uncle and nephew.
Yep.
Didn't quite say that. But he is saying all these things to him. And I think this is what helped Torin realize that Randu was being controlled, because he's like, I've wanted to hear this from you. Like, I've wanted you to say these things to me. I've wanted you to, like, show me this respect. And you are only showing it to me now makes me believe that you are not doing this of your own volition.
Yeah.
So
that's sad when it's like you finally get the validation that you want, and you realize that it's like for all the wrong reasons, and so you don't get to appreciate it and enjoy it.
Yeah. It's well, it feels like it's not real words. It's like it's fake. It's controlled. He's not really saying these things, and maybe he was really saying these things, and this is what he felt like could help get Torin to want to side with him. And maybe he did start to feel these things after his conversation with Beta. And gosh, this is a great episode.
Yeah, and it's sad seeing Randu go and the way he went, like the fact that Torin had to make a choice that he knew would end his uncle right at a point where they were making amends.
Yeah. So I got confused, like what hit Randu, like when he was taking off. That's what I was confused by.
My guess was that it was like, there's two escape buttons, or maybe there's just one and it has like two functions. But it's like it both shoots you out to like a safe spot, but then it also neutralizes enemy targets inside of there that are potentially a risk to you. Because theoretically, they might just come after you, and now you're just in like a small pod versus a powerful ship.
Sure. That makes sense.
So that was my guess. It was like the combination of like close to like a self-destruct, but without actually having to self-destruct the ship. Yeah. So hopefully you can come back to it.
Okay, because that was my one confusion, where they were like pleading with each other, and he's like, I'm sorry. And then it was just like, boom, he shoots off, and it was just like perfect bullet hole in his head. So I wasn't sure if like some of those other guys shot him that came in with him that took Beta, because he had failed getting Torin. And at the end of the day, they don't care about what they're doing or who they have, and they'll kill anybody to further the mule's plans. I am worried about Beta being captured, though.
Yeah. I agree with you that like Torin and Beta are the two standouts. I don't think anything is going to happen to her yet. And possibly I think she's going to be one of the ones that makes it through. But the show has ended major characters, so...
Well, and also there is a good chance that if there's another time jump after this season, they're not going to be here anyway. They're going to be gone anyway, so...
I assume there's going to be another time jump, because it's hard for this season I could see as being the least likely to have a time jump, where it's like maybe they want to set up the Mule Part 2, where like they haven't actually completely fixed the problem. So I could see this season going into kind of like two, like a part 1 and a part 2, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to believe that the next crisis is going to be as big as this one.
Yeah.
Unless it's that like this one has like screwed things so badly that now, we're even further into like decline in the darkness of the galaxy.
Sure. I am worried about these if we go further with these crises, because
we got 5 more, baby. Harry said 8 crises, although their predictions have been getting worse and worse, so who knows.
My biggest concern is power creep, right? Like
but that you always want to make it bigger and bigger.
Right. And so far, these crises that we've seen, the first one was the planet coming to Terminus, Arrakis, not Arrakis, that's Dune, not Arrakeen, that's also Dune, whatever it's called. Anyway, the first one from the fourth one. So there was like them kind of messing up the new Foundation. And then the second crisis was, the whole Armada coming there, blowing up Terminus. And I feel like the problem is with the Mule the mule is such a big bad, right? Like it is I can't imagine a crisis feeling heavier or more imminent than a guy that can literally control armies to kill each other. Like that seems so powerful. Like I can't imagine something either more entertaining or stronger that feels worse. So I don't know where they go from here. And that's my biggest concern.
Yeah. I mean, that's future writers' problems, hopefully.
True. And, that might be our future problem when we have to talk about it. And we're like, so the writing's really bad now and nothing makes sense and nothing's good anymore. But
we'll see.
But we'll see.
Going back to the mule's lack of love and how he uses his power to like fill people with love. It's interesting that he's taken on this kid of his own. Like Skirlet continues to follow him around and is kind of like his child. But I feel like this is how somebody who had an abused relationship, like a bad relationship, would treat somebody. That like, he's not giving her the chance to like make her own choices and live her own life. Like in the end, the mule wanted to live and continue forward. And it's like, is this, I mean, like, yes, technically she's living, she's breathing, she's eating, she's whatever. But is that real? Like, I don't know. It feels like he's just trying to like fill a void and doing it in a very bad way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that comes back to what we were saying about he had his parents who didn't love him. They were willing to kill him to save their baby. And I think that his existence, and maybe we'll get more of like when he's older and maybe things he's done with Harrington, but he seems to be lacking love. And then he goes to the club, right? And all these people love him at the club, right? Like he's, showing up there. And so I think with him killing people and making them love it, I think he makes people love him. Like, I don't know if anybody on his crew actually loves him for him, or if they are just guided to love him. And maybe really the only person he might have loved was Magnifico himself might have loved, because Magnifico could help channel his powers a little bit. And so like this comes from,
I don't know if he loved Magnifico. Based off the way he was treating him also seemed kind of abusive, like unaware of the fact that he was making Magnifico uncomfortable.
Right. And I think that's kind of where I'm getting at. It's not that like he was a good person to his. Yes. I think that's just like, if he could manage to love something, it would be that. Like, I think that if Skirlet was killed or stolen, he'd be like, man, that's a bummer. But like when Magnifico was killed and he goes to the jump gate, he like goes crazy. Like he's like so upset. It's like when you take something away from like a sociopath, they're like, so like, I got to get back there. I got to get that thing. And so not like a good love, like his version of what he can love. That's how I feel like he looks maybe at Magnifico. And only because he can use him to like be better and stronger. So it's like helps him, and that's why he loves him.
Yeah. And like my take on the Maggie thing is, it seems like Magnifico Giganticus potentially just makes the mule's job easier. Mm-hmm. Because, Inber, when he heard his music, said something like it breaks you down. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if like breaking you down makes it easier to flood you with love, to like reprogram you, whatever, because otherwise you're like fighting against whatever programming somebody already has.
Yeah, no, and I think that whether it's like, I do agree with you, and I think it's more like, say there's 10 people and they all have no Magnifico things. Say it maybe takes like a couple minutes to like weasel your way in there, like get past their defenses. Yeah. And so like doing 10 of them takes like 30% of your energy. Well, with Magnifico there, maybe like 100 people takes 30% of your thing, because you can like lower that. There's not that barrier to break through.
Yes. And that was my second guess, was that like maybe because it's easier, he's then able to apply his powers to like a larger.
And that's And that's the only reason he likes him, is he uses him as a tool to be stronger, not because he actually cares about Maggie's well-being. He just wants him to, he views him as a means to an end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do have, it's like, just the, I mean, just, I mean, this for you and me. But, fuck, the drowning was terrible. Like, to me, I mean, I guess that was similar to like what he had like Torin doing to himself, where he's like causing himself distress. But this seemed like even a level higher, where you would think with something this distressing, where it gets into like literally life-threatening, that it would like kick in the lizard part of your brain that deals with like fight or flight, you know, because that generally is able to like overpower like your intellect.
Mm-hmm.
So it also points like how deep this programming, like whatever it is that he does.
Yeah. And I think especially with this drowning and progressively, like at first, first 2 episodes, I wasn't too stoked on like the power level of what they were showing of like how scary the mule could be. But as we've gone on, like the things that he's had people do, the things that we are seeing, like the casual drowning of yourself, it just feels like they have ramped him up so much, and they've made him just like a force to be reckoned with, and he is terrifying. And the fact that he could just make you so happy to drown yourself, that's a terrifying victim.
Right.
Or terrifying villain. Sorry.
Right. Like once again, like this isn't like other versions of mind control where you hear the person in their own head like screaming for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like he seemed happy, like absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
My pleasure. Yeah, exactly. Crazy. Ugh.
Yeah.
Just gives me the chills.
Yeah.
But with that, I think our journey has come to an end. Thank you folks so much for joining along with us. Come back next week as we will tackle Foundation Season 3, Episode 8. And shortly after that, we will be doing Only Murders in the Building. We look forward to having you for both of those. But until those times, I'm Mark. This is Sterling.
Thanks.